The other thing we're doing this week is we're preparing and thinking about our first essay that we will write. Now, you'll need to go through and watch the other videos, read the poems, the identity poems, because you're going to have to write about more than just everyday use. I have some instructional materials here that are general for writing college essays. Take a brief look at those. And the diagnostic essay feedback should give you some kind of idea of whether what you should kind of look at here. If the writing process of going from brainstorming to outlining to drafting to revising and then turning is foreign to you, it shouldn't be, but if it is, this little video shows you kind of how you move through that with a literary analysis focus and how a thesis ties the 3 points together. We use a 1-3-1 structure. We use that in English 101. We use that in English 102. So you've developed a introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, each with a main focal point, and then a conclusion. And the 3 main body points should be reflected in the thesis statement. That will give you more. If you've never done an outline before, looking at this little outlining PowerPoint will give you, make you more familiar with that. And then if you want to see how to cite something which will be later. This is the How to Write a Literature Analysis Essay is more for the draft, but you will see a sample thesis statements, things like that. If you need help with some basics, introductions, like what it should say, what it should be, then there's this video. So these are kind of like, hey, these are here to help you in case there's a gap, something that you don't feel strong and confident on. There. Okay, that's in week 3. Let me pull this up so you can see that. All right. Let me go to our essay 1 overview. You always will have a very specific assignment. You can't just write about anything. Remember we had our plagiarism module? That becomes a real big issue. So you can't just write about identity. You just can't write about everyday use, whatever you want to do there. They're very specific content assignments. And this helps really to make sure that you are writing about what you're supposed to have learned here, okay? For all our major essays, we will use the writing process to develop our essays, from coming up with topic ideas, brainstorming, or outlining, which is organizing those ideas. I've given you a template. Composing a rough draft, getting feedback on the draft, revising, making it better, and editing the draft. Finally, using criterion for a final check for errors. We'll have a video on that next week. And then submitting the final revised draft for the major essay grade. We have 4 major essays. They count a lot. But there's a whole process of assignments leading up to that. For our first one, students will write an MLA formatted 5-paragraph analysis essay. Now, I'll have to go back and find and make sure. MLA format is what we use in English. And it is not APA. It's similar, but it's not the same. You can Google that. You can say how to do, MLA format in a Microsoft Word document or in a Google document. And then if you use Google, you have to also know how to download it as a PDF file for your essay. Or if you use MacBook, how to get that into a Word document. But the MLA format is really important. It uses a 4-part heading in the top left corner, the center aligned a title. The body of anything in MLA is going to be double spaced. That's more for paragraphs. And you will end up with a 5-paragraph analysis essay, approximately 1,000 words in length. And it's going to be on the theme of identity. And you have to discuss at least 2 of the assigned selections. So we had Alice Walker's story, Everyday Use. Also, specific poems by Langston Hughes and Ashley Jones, and the Act 3 excerpt of Ibsen's play. So you have to discuss at least 2 of them. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is you can just do selection 1, like everyday use, or then and then body paragraph 2, how the theme of identity is presented in Ashley Jones' poem, maybe a particular one poem or one of Langston Hughes. And then because we studied conflict and conflict analysis, how is that theme tied to the conflict? It is tied to the conflict. Another way you could do this is if you kind of took a sub-theme of identity, like we talked a little bit about the theme of identity national identity or ethnic identity through or ancestral identity that we talked about at the beginning of video one on identity, and talk about ancestral identity in everyday use and uh, Langston Hughes' poem, I to America, or in Ashley Jones' God Made My Whole Body. And you could talk about them together that way. Or female identity. How is the theme of female identity presented in everyday use and A Doll's House? So you could do that, but you have to discuss at least two of the texts that were assigned in here. Okay. Body paragraph 3 is personal, so I expect to see personal pronouns here. Which identity text selection or message did you connect with the most? How and why? And it should be both, not or, the text, which story, which poem, which excerpt, and which message about identity resonated with you the most and why. Expand on that. The first step is the outline. So let's take a look. This will tell you kind of preview before you go into the draft. You need to check your outline, see if you need to make changes to that. There's more steps. We'll walk through each one of them each week that it's assigned. So here's the outline assignment. As you open that up and you can see that you have a little bit more detail because this is the actual assignment. Tells you again, reminds you of what essay 1 has to be about. And then you use this outline template. Notice that a formal outline uses Roman numerals for each of the paragraphs, Roman numeral 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for each paragraph. And then for the parts, the content inside of that, we use letters of the alphabet, A, B, C in this case, and at least A and B. So you're going to have a hook. An introduction paragraph gives some background. I don't need all that, and I don't want paragraphs. I just want to know which, identity theme is your focus that you're going to use. You're going to create an engaging opener with. I want to know what those two selections are here. You can do a B, 1, and 2. If you ended up discussing 3 or 4, just list the ones that are actually going to be presented in the body. And then the thesis statement. Now, if you watch some of the other things, you know that your thesis statement should really be a one-sentence summary of body paragraph 1, 2, and 3. And it can be a little rough, but I do want you to make that attempt to make a one-sentence summary of those 3 major points. This is discussed in this one, this identity is discussed in this one, but the one I connected with the most was this other, something like that. The conclusion, I'm not looking for a conclusion paragraph yet. Maybe a sentence about how it's significant to society today, which you will elaborate on when you write the draft. Again, no paragraphs. It's just identifying the content. You do have to think it through if you want to free write out, on something separate, but the outline has to be, it's not bulleted, but you use the letters, but it's not a paragraph. It's not a discussion. It's just a simple one sentence, and it has to be thoughtful. To brainstorm, you might need to write things out on a piece of paper or on a Word document and process that, and then come away with, okay, what's the one sentence version of this? Which is great because that will end up being probably your topic sentence, okay, when you write your paragraph. Okay, that is your instructions for essay 1. Again, specific instructions. And listen, it's low stakes. There's only 2 ways really you can fail. One is not to try at all, okay? And then one is to do something and not follow the instructions at all. So hopefully if you're watching this, you have intentions of following those instructions. And if you fail to follow the instructions, and I need to catch it now while it's just a small assignment grade. When it becomes a major essay grade and you've completely written about something that was not the assignment, that has bigger consequences. So I'm trying to give you guidance very early in the process and assist you by coaching you a little bit along the way.